2012. Big year for many things.
Huge year.
Big year in cinema.
Frankenweenie came out. Les Miserables. Everyone loved that one. Everyone thought, how daring.
I remember Tumblr talked about that movie for like a straight decade.
Oh, because they loved it. They had only good things to say about it. They were like, can't get enough of this movie.
I'll lay my cards on the table. 2012, I was in university, as were you probably.
Yes.
Because you were probably about 20 at that point.
About, now that you say it, yes. I was around that age and I was gearing up to watch a movie where all my favorite players come together on the big screen, building up to a gigantic cinematic universe. You know what I'm talking about. Rise of the Guardians.
Perfect.
Yep.
That
was a good joke. I want everyone to know that.
Well, this might speak to a lot of my cultural lack of knowledge, because what happened is that in 2012, I was in university and I lived in Sherbrooke, which is in Quebec. And I lived in a city that did not have English as its first language. So that meant like the movie theater only ever had one movie going at a time. Or one movie in English, I should say, going at a time. And so it was in town and kind of difficult to get to where I lived. So I basically never went to the movies except to see Lincoln, which I definitely saw like 6 times because I really liked Lincoln.
You know, I never watched it. I've heard of the dude though. Seemed like a nice guy.
It's got my favorite actor. It's got my favorite actor of all time, Jared Harris.
Yeah. Okay.
It's got Daniel Day-Lewis method acting as Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah.
There is a part where Tommy Lee Jones does like an epic line that was so good he got an Oscar for it. And the guy who played Rorschach in Watchmen, Rorschach's a gigantic asshole, but then he goes and plays an even more gigantic asshole who is the vice president of the Confederacy. So
and didn't he go he then went on to go play Freddy in one of the Freddy movies. What is up with this guy?
Him playing preppy blonde.
No. In one of the Nightmare on Elm Street.
Oh, yeah. I feel like
Not Fred Jones Scooby-Doo.
Now that, can we get that?
Now that's interesting casting.
I feel like playing Rorschach maybe typecasted him a little bit.
A little bit, perhaps.
He does it really well, though. He does like creepy, intense guy pretty well.
That's pretty good. Are you telling me that there was a universe where you could have gone to see Ted in French in a theater?
Le Ted.
Le Ted? French Ted?
Who doesn't want to see Mark Wahlberg act with a cartoon teddy bear played by Seth MacFarlane?
Yeah.
It's like a real goof 'em up.
Yeah.
Just a laugh a minute.
Funny movie. Good movie that
What if Mark Wahlberg and the Family Guy guy
did a movie together?
Yeah. Although, to be fair, The Orville is a very good show. And I don't know how Seth MacFarlane, the person who makes Family Guy one of the most mean-spirited shows on television, made something as good as The Orville. I don't know.
What else happened in that year? Nothing else of note, I don't think. 2012.
There was London Olympics.
Okay. That's right. Because there was a Doctor Who thing.
Yep.
But that didn't happen. Because the show was like, in 2012, the Doctor's going to be at the Summer Games. And then it didn't happen. And everyone who is a big Doctor Who nerd was like, why?
Curiosity was launched.
Curiosity.
The Mars rover.
Finally, we get curious. We start thinking for ourselves.
Yeah. New York got the shit kicked out of it by Hurricane Sandy.
Oh, I do remember that. Yeah.
Barack Obama won probably the least competitive election in the 21st century, where he destroyed Mitt Romney in that election.
Gotcha. I was literally about to ask. I do not remember who he was running against.
Mitt, binders full of women, Romney.
There it is.
South Sudan got independence.
Okay.
I've heard that's only been going well for them so far. The Higgs boson was discovered, which I guess is a big deal in particle physics.
Kind of a huge deal. This next one seems a little bit more interesting to me, though.
Apple released the iPad mini. I once had an iPad. I forgot to mention.
Yeah, baby.
I was mentioning every Apple product I've ever had to Scott before the show.
Yes.
And
you had an iPod. You had a MacBook
for like 2 or 3 years, and then I also had a iPhone 3 that I bought off eBay and then broke within a week of buying. Because I tried to replace the screen on my own.
Now, did you know there is no such thing as an iPhone 3? That doesn't exist. An iPhone 3? You're missing a letter there. You're missing at least 1 or 2 letters.
iPhone 3QP?
I don't know. It doesn't matter.
I bought an iPhone. I used it for like a week. It broke. And then I didn't get another smartphone for like another 3 years. And I had an iPad that I bought with some money once.
You know, and here's the thing about me is I'm a big Apple nerd. Android. All right.
Yeah, you're the Apple. I'm the PC. I've got the Android phone. I've got the Windows PC.
I'm just saying to focus on the iPad mini of all things of that year is ridiculous. They released the iPhone 5. They released new iPod Touches and iPod Nanos. They had new headphones called EarPods.
That was the thing so was that the year that Apple decided that they were innovating by removing features from their phone?
No, you're thinking of AirPods. EarPods had the cord and they plugged into a lightning cable. That's right, 2012, birth of the lightning cable. 10 years later, no complaints. Just kidding, it's awful. Please get rid of it.
What if we, the USB format that every other phone and every other company in the world uses?
Yeah.
Well, what if we didn't do that and we just use this other thing that sucks?
Yes, forever and ever and ever.
Yeah.
What else happened? Don't get me sucked down talking about tech news. News 10 years ago.
Yeah. Queen Elizabeth II got her Diamond Jubilee and lived happily ever after. Still around today, I think.
Still kicking as far as I know.
Yep. And the world was taken aback by the workings of Korean singer Psy and his hit Gangnam Style.
Oh.
Which I think was the first YouTube video to hit 1 billion views.
I think you're right. And it was a video I still have never seen.
Well, how did you make it in university through 2012 without seeing Gangnam Style?
I've heard the song.
2012 was the height
many times.
2012 was the height of the YouTube party, where instead of being normal humans and talking to each other, you just took turns showing people YouTube videos you found.
No. I mean, I've heard the song so many times, and I've seen the dances that people do and how they get all random and wacky and kooky. Never seen the video. Never seen it.
Man,
I will die before I see it. I don't know why. I'm sure it's fun. I'm sure it's great. I've just drawn a weird line in the sand where I'm just I'm never gonna watch this now. I've made it too far.
You know what? You're like, wow, I've held out this long. I might as well make it my personality now.
Exactly. Exactly.
One last thing that happened in 2012.
Yeah, hit me with it.
The world ended.
Oh.
Yeah, the world ended 10 years ago today.
Have I been editing these podcasts and releasing them out to an audience of nothing?
Possibly.
Tristan, is it just you and me?
Yeah, I think you are the only person I've ever met in the last decade.
Yeah.
I seem to have memories about having a baby and meeting my wife in that period, but that could just be something.
You're getting your wires crossed.
That's like they're all in the other room. It's just a line of volleyballs, and it's just everyone I've ever met since 2012.
Yeah. How did Gangnam Style get 1 billion views if the world ended?
I just watched it 1 billion times.
Wow, that's impressive. And I've watched it 0.
Yeah, that's why I'm trying to get you to help me out here. But
all right.
This is a podcast.
Yeah. Hey everyone. This is a podcast called It's Probably Not Aliens. And we're going to talk about the time the world ended in 2012. It's the 10-year anniversary.
Yeah, I've been hinting to this episode, I think, since the podcast started, because I realized that the 10th anniversary of the 2012 apocalypse was coming. And while it's not on Ancient Aliens, probably, I don't know.
Probably.
We'll probably get to an episode of Ancient Aliens where they say the world's going to end in 2012 because it starts or before then. But today we're going to talk about 2012, what's called the 2012 phenomenon, and about how a lot of people, and I thought some normal people were also thinking that the world was going to end. I don't know.
Yeah.
Why don't we start small? Scott, do you remember?
Let's start. Let's start even smaller. My name is Scott. I'm a host of this podcast, and I know nothing. I come here, tab open to IMDb to talk about all of the obscure 2012 movies. Did you know Safety Not Guaranteed came out in 2012? I love that movie. I hope it holds up.
You could literally tell me that that's like a movie where a talking pancake goes on a road trip, and I would believe you, because I could not tell you the first thing about that movie.
It's a good movie based on a true story, I think. Anyway, that's all I do. The true story of a pancake
that goes on a road trip.
That's all I do, but I'm joined by another person here who has watched Gangnam Style more times than any human should.
Yeah, I'm Tristan Johnson, Gangnam Style expert, and I researched I researched some other things in 2012, so I am a 2012ologist. So we're going to talk about the end times of that. But I kind of want to start though by Scott. What's your almost everybody probably has some experience with like the 2012 phenomenon and how it intersected their life. Do you remember people saying that the world was going to end? And like, what was your 2012 vibe?
Yep. I stayed up all night. I was worried.
You had concerns.
I had concerns. So we've touched on this many times before on this show. I grew up very religious. Now, this is not a Christian thing. This is a
specific
Scott thing. Well, no, I mean like the doomsday thing. December 21st, 2012 is not like a Christian thing.
No, not at all.
No. But would you believe that a lot of people were maybe trying to spin it that way?
Oh yeah, we'll get to that.
Like maybe, hey, maybe it's not some sort of weird alien whatever. Maybe the apocalypse is the rapture, and God's gonna rapture everybody. And so yeah, you bet I stayed up all night worried about everything. As I guess I was 20 I was exactly 20 at this time, and a naive 20-year-old indeed. Well, I say naive. I also just have anxiety. So I think that also played into it. But this was a thing that I had been thinking about for months beforehand, and especially the week preceding.
Lovely.
How about you?
So I was your typical person who got a D- in high school, so was an undergrad at the age of 24 person. Now I had an old YouTube channel that never really ever took off, where I was definitely in the like edgy atheist skeptic sphere of that was really hot back then. And I definitely was like, this isn't a thing. Everybody who thinks it's a thing, you're a dummy. And so I was very much like, I was right, but I was an asshole about it. That's what I'm going to say.
Oh, okay. You were right. That's all I'm focusing on. Good news. I did do a quick Google search and found out that Ancient Aliens, the TV show, has indeed talked about this, about 2012 in the Mayan calendar, multiple times, it seems.
Lovely. I can't wait to watch through all these things where they predict the end of the world and then instantly drop it one season.
Yeah. In fact, yeah, one of the episodes, I just linked you an episode. It came out in February of 2012. So they were really just like, they were on top of it.
I think the Zoomers would call that an oof.
A big oof.
I would play that. Can you edit in the Roblox oof sound to make us cool with the kids?
I can surely try.
Oppan Gangnam Style.
I think I did it. I think I played the oof sound.
Perfect. So even 10 years ago, I was at least a baby Tristan who was still baby 24-year-old who was obsessed with conspiracy theories and conspiracy movements, all that kind of stuff. Just much more of a dick about it back then, though.
I mean, you had to be.
Because,
that was the rules of the internet.
I was also a white guy who was 24, and so I hadn't learned to grow up and be a decent human being yet.
And you just have way too much confidence.
Yeah.
So we might have people who are listening to, and this makes me sick to even say, we might have people listening to this who were too young to remember 2012.
That is true, because they're like teenagers would be, they would be alive for it, but they would have been babbies.
They would have been babbies.
Like a 16-year-old would be in first grade when this happened.
Yeah.
If you're like 20, you would have been like 10 years old. You might have had bigger
You lived
things
through
to deal
the
with.
end of the world and you didn't even know.
Yeah.
So let's tell everyone about it. What happened?
So on December 21st, 2012, something very interesting happened, which is that the Mayan calendar ended. And a lot of people thought that meant the world was going to end. Now, a lot of people had various different ideas that something bad was going to happen when this happened. Some people were saying there was going to be like a solar storm, or that the poles were going to shift, or that a meteor was going to strike, or the planet Nibiru was going to show up. I remember,
we're back.
I remember that because I was still a conspiracy theory investigator back then, and this was like the peak of the reptilian conspiracy theory. Like, there are people who are like, the lizards are coming. This is the day the lizards are coming. They're riding their Planet X right into our shit to steal our Earth gold.
Only Scooby-Doo can save us.
Yeah, it was a whole lot. So there's various apocalypses. And on the other side, there were new agey people who thought that it was not an apocalypse, but it was the beginning of a new age of spiritual enlightenment or a growing consciousness.
Oh, like a good thing.
Yeah.
Right.
But overall, it was peak for content and people who like to make money off content. So there was a lot of movies, books, TV specials, especially on the History Channel, and even a movie, if you recall.
Oh, that's right. But that movie did not come out in 2012.
No, it came out I think in 2009, and it was by the same guy who made The Day After Tomorrow. And I never saw it, but it sounds like it was basically the same movie.
When did that movie? Did it come out in 2009? I was gonna call it 29. That's not a year.
No, well, I mean, it was a long time ago.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Wow. Really jumped up. Now, I hate to say this, are we late on this trend? Are we not going to make money off of this?
Probably not. They definitely, not because we're too late, but because grifting off of the 2012 thing was trying to get people scared that the apocalypse was coming. But yeah, like it led to a lot of people, despite the fact that there was no evidence and anybody who knew anything about what was going on was basically saying that nothing was going to happen. A whole bunch of people stocked up on food or got really nervous or sent me late night messages on Facebook being like, everything's going to be okay, right? And I'm like, yes. Oh my God.
Okay, so it wasn't just me. Okay.
I had a friend in undergrad. She was a wonderful human being. I loved her dearly. Was never not on drugs the entire time I knew her. And she was our resident space cadet. And so she was a little bit, she had concerns.
I do remember now that I was in, for whatever reason, I'm sure it was just traveling because it was around the holidays. For whatever reason, I was in a hotel room on December 20th and the night before. And I was
the night before apocalypse and all through the hotel room.
And because I had this idea that it was going to be like a rapture sort of religious thing, I was like, well, if that, I was like, if this is going to happen, that's a good joke. If this is going to happen, I for sure am not getting raptured. Like, I know me.
I was sinning so much.
I was sinning so bad.
Alone in that hotel room.
Well, I was with my family, right? So I was like,
oh my, was your family, Scott?
Okay. All right. Okay. So I was just thinking that like, well, if I'm not getting raptured, if that's going to happen, I'm a big bad sinner boy, but my parents probably will be raptured. And if that's the case, how am I going to get home?
Okay, that's my biggest concern. How am I going to get home after my parents get raptured?
How am I going to get home?
Oh my goodness. Now there's like a movie that's like just Scott, like little teenage, or what's it called? 20-year-old Scott trying to find his way home in like the post-rapture apocalypse. And it's just like...
Yeah. For added context, even though I was 20, I did not have my driver's license, nor do I currently, as I'm 30.
Neither do I, and I'm 34, so,
There you go. Look at us go.
Yeah. So that's basically like the main deal. I'm just going to kind of go into a bunch of the theories about these kinds of things and get into why people thought the world was going to end and what kinds of things people thought were going to happen and why they didn't or why they were wrong to think so, basically. Mm-hmm. The first thing is to deal with the main cheese, that the Mayan calendar was the end of the world.
Yes.
Basically, ever since the first ruins of an ancient Maya city had been rediscovered in Palenque in 1773, people have been fascinated with the Maya. Mm-hmm. People have always been looking into their civilization and trying to find things about their culture. And one of the things about their culture that is unique is they do have a sort of obsession with cycles, specifically of cycles of like nature, cycles of time, cycles of the stars, those kinds of things. That was like a huge deal in their society. And because of that, they had a amazing concept of like astronomy. Like, I think we've talked about this before. Like, they had a really, really intricate understanding of the stars, and their calendars were really accurate and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But their society had a lot of calendars. They had calendars for they had different calendar systems that were used for different types of things. Some that were based on the moon, some based on the sun, based on stars, and all these kinds of things. So they had tons of these, right? And the one that we're talking about that they would talk to is something that's called the long count calendar, or the Baktun cycle, which is basically their really big time counter. Basically, one of these cycles is about 5,125 years. So the biggest Mayan calendar that we know of, this cycle, did reset, I should say, on December 21st, 2012.
What does that mean?
Well, this is the thing. We don't know exactly. And one of the things that we for sure don't know is if the Mayan people even thought that it meant like the end of the world or anything significant at all.
Huh.
In many ways, it's basically it's supposed to be a cycle. It's the last day of the current Baktun cycle, which is a period of 144,000 days, or about 394 years. But then it's also so you have to think about it like a clock, right? Like basically it's a clock with 13 segments on it, or like 13 hours. But each one of these hours is 394 years.
It's a baker's clock.
Yeah, it's a baker's clock. And every one of the quote unquote hours on the clock is 394 years. So what happened on December 1st, 2012 was the Baktun cycle went to basically midnight.
Okay, so it did 394 years 13 times?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So do
you have the math on that, or am I going to do that one?
It's a cycle that began on August 11th, 3114 BCE. And ended on 2012.
And that would be 5,122 years.
Yes, exactly.
That's a long time.
Yeah, it's a big calendar.
That does make you want, like, to credit where, no credit to the grifters or anything, but like it does make you wonder, like, what were they? Why so long? What were they waiting on?
Well, unlike some of our listeners, you and I can also recall that we were alive to see a new millennium, which is a thing that people don't see every day either.
Oh, that's true.
So in many ways, I always kind of think of it as the Mayan version of the year 2000, even though it's even bigger than that. But basically,
that's a lot more. That's much bigger.
Yeah.
5,000 years.
But the thing is that apparently it might have been that this great cycle was actually just a component of some larger periods that theoretically extended infinitely backwards and forwards in time.
Whoa.
And that basically they might have had this idea where there was like greater and greater clocks on top of that like expanded forever and had even huger amounts of time associated with them.
How many clocks?
Just clocks all the way down. But the problem is that we actually don't, like, the thing is that we just don't know the answer. There's not a lot of information about what they thought was going to happen when these clocks reset. So it might not have been the end in like an absolute sense, but maybe just sort of like kind of like a year 2000 type situation.
It's just something.
Mm-hmm.
Something.
Especially because the Mayan calendar it's not, so this is the main thing you have to think about, is that it's not like our calendar. Our calendar is linear, which means that we have the largest clock in our calendar is the year, and the year keeps going up, and it'll keep going up forever. There's not a time where we will get to the end of the years and start over at zero.
We should, if they get too big though, we should consider it, I think.
Maybe.
Because then if you're like signing a document and you have to write the date, and it's, the date is in the like 5, 6, 7 digits.
I have a feeling that they'll have bigger things to worry about a million years in the future.
I'm just trying to think of the people who have to sign contracts. Those people.
In the year 1 million.
Mm-hmm.
But like the idea is that the Mayan calendar doesn't work like that. The Mayan calendar resets periodically, and that's just sort of the way it works. Kind of like an example of that, of a cyclical calendar that is in our system, is that the way that we measure the length of a day.
Yeah.
Like we wouldn't come to the conclusion that, the daily calendar resets at midnight, and therefore the world ends.
Right, that's true. Because even if you do like military time and you do 24 hours, right, then you're still resetting every 24 hours. You're hitting that reset button. Now, if you're a simpleton and you're using the 12 hour, then you're resetting twice a day. That's 2 apocalypses. Yeah.
We have a fundamental disagreement in our house because I lived in Quebec, I got used to 24-hour time. So all of my devices are on 24-hour time. but all of Kelly's are on 12-hour time.
I mean, I've been a 12-hour person my whole life until I started doing like coding and automation, and I'm just like, it's so much easier to tell the computer a 24-hour time.
Yeah.
It doesn't understand the AM PM.
I just lived with French people. That's the easiest way to do it.
French Ted.
So the other thing that's basically the lowdown on the clock, the Mayan calendar version of it, is that it was a big part of their long count calendar, but the Maya, there's no evidence that the Maya thought that it was going to be apocalyptic or that it signaled anything. And it's not that they didn't think that, it's just that we don't know, because there's still a lot about the Maya that we just don't know.
Yeah.
Another belief was that on this date, coincidentally, as soon as that happened, that there was going to be solar storms.
Whoa.
So this hits a couple things. Basically, that they thought that the solar maximum was going to hit, that it was going to result in like solar flares and like a lot of electromagnetic radiation hitting the Earth, and that was somehow going to cause a switching of our north and south magnetic poles. This is interesting because it's basically taking like 4 different History Channel apocalypse specials and smashing them together.
Yeah. And at the center of it all is magnets. How do they work? Yeah. I don't know, but they will kill us.
Yeah. Because like, what's it called? History Channel ran tons of Nostradamus predicting the end of the world in 2012.
Oh, yeah.
They also ran documentaries about things like the magnetic field of the Earth weakening, which is a thing that is happening. So we have so our planet is at its center, has a hard but very hot iron nickel core.
Yeah, it's big. It's in there.
That is spinning very fast because our planet is spinning very fast. And in doing so, it basically acts like a giant electromagnet and is causing a huge magnetic field around our planet. That is very good because it keeps us, it bounces away lots of space particles that would give us cancer otherwise.
We like it. Thank you.
The thing though is that the sort of electromagnetic field of the Earth does periodically change. And like, this is what we use, like this is how like compasses work and stuff like that. But it does weaken and reverses from time to time. And you can tell this by, if you look in the geological record, when the stone forms, like magnetic, anything that's like a very magnetic metal, like the kind of metal used to make compasses, will be pointing in a direction because that's what they would be attracted to, right? So you can see in different times that it actually does go back and forth and it does weaken and stuff like that. As far as I know, ours are weakening, but the thing is that geomagnetic reversal takes like thousands of years to do.
So the people who are signing long documents might have that. That'll be a problem for them. Gotcha.
Exactly. People who are looking at compasses like a million years from now will have to, but they don't. The thing is, like, it's a very gradual process that doesn't start on a particular date. And it definitely doesn't get jump-started by solar storms.
Okay, so little debunking there.
Mm-hmm. And the thing is, like, solar storms do happen from time to time.
Yeah.
And they can cause a problem for, like, cell phone communication and for, like, satellites and stuff like that, but not on Earth, unless you get something that's more like a solar flare, which we haven't really gotten a really nasty one, but those actually can cause, like electrical circuits to burst and stuff like that. I almost guarantee that I got that wrong, but there was an incident, I think, like kind of in telegraph times, where a solar flare caused a bunch of telegraph lines to break, and people have suspected that if we get hit by like a big one like that it could cause a lot of our electronics to go haywire. So they were thinking that was going to happen. The thing is that the solar maximum happened sometime in late 2013 or 2014. And according to the people who study the sun, i.e. like NASA, they predicted, from what they can tell from looking at the solar peak, it actually was kind of weak solar maximum with a below average amount of sunspots.
Not enough to do anything.
So yeah, like it was a year off, and it was not even a particularly strong one or anything. It was actually a particularly weak one.
Double whammy.
Then there was this other idea that the Earth was going to shift on its axis that was going to cause a disaster.
Well, we're all going to fall off.
Well, okay, so here's the idea. Basically, they thought that Earth was going to pass through galactic alignment, whatever that is, will be very fun.
I've seen Hercules. Yeah.
And that by passing through galactic alignment, it was going to cause something huge to happen. A lot of New Age literature wrote about this happening because astrology is a big thing in their sort of circles. Mm-hmm. And they were going to kind of talk about this axial precession thing. So to kind of explain how this works is that in our solar system, all of the planets and the sun are roughly on a flat plane. Like you don't have like planets going like this or like around. They're all sort of like on the same level.
It's Earth is flat. I'm following you.
Yeah, the solar system is flat.
Okay. Flat solar system theory. Yeah.
And another thing that happens is that throughout the year, as the Earth goes around the sun rises and falls by different constellations in the sky. And as it moves through these throughout the year, the constellation that it rises and falls over are sort of these periods that are called, there's these things that happen. You might know them because this is how the zodiac works. The different 12 symbols of the zodiac are what constellation the sun rises and falls over. Or I should say the one it used to rise and fall over, because in the time since, because the Earth is a little bit on an axis, it's shifted enough that now all of the zodiacs are one sign off.
Oh, do we fix it? What do we do?
There was somebody who fixed it, and they had to add a 13th zodiac to make it all work. But there was
Ted Cruz.
Yeah. Oh. But the thing is that this does happen because the cycle does recede slowly by about 1 degree every 72 years, which is, and by one constellation about every 2.1 thousand years. It's called precession. I've been hearing it a lot lately because that very terrible Netflix show that approximately the entire internet told us to look at, Ancient Apocalypse, uses it a lot in very dishonest ways.
Oh boy.
Just I think to put a note here, yes, we've heard of
the Netflix show. You've told us so much about it.
I watched it. I received 1d6 psychic damage.
There you go.
And I'm going to do something about it. I am angry. Don't worry. I'm going to be making a step back video about it.
Yes.
The way that you could probably compare this is like, imagine a top wobbling as it starts to slow down.
When did Inception come out?
I think it was after this.
Yeah, it was after it.
Because he was still finishing up the Batman trilogy, I think, in 2012.
Oh, it was before.
Oh,
We're
Inception
both
is
wrong.
Before Batman?
It's before the last Batman.
Oh,
yeah.
I didn't know he took a break to make
Batman.
Batman.
Yeah, it was right in between 2010. All right, top wobbling.
So the thing is that you can go all the way through and proceed kind of, so as the sun sort of moves off, right? This is where things are going to get a little crumbly. So
all right,
there's something called a great year, which is basically when the sun goes through all of the precessions of that thing. As you can imagine, it's very long. It's a period of like 25,000 years or 20, maybe even 20, like 25.8 thousand years.
Whoa.
To go on a 360-degree spin all the way through the precession of the zodiacs.
You know, if you double it, you're pretty close to the Mayan calendar.
25,000 years?
I said, but if you double it, then that's like the 5,000, however many.
I said 25,000 years.
Oh, that's much longer.
Yeah.
I got my
There's like 5
wrong.
of them in there.
There's 5 Mayan ones in there.
Yeah.
That's 5 Mayan things. Does that tie in at all, or am I just making a fool of myself?
No, you're getting it.
Okay.
So the other thing, though, is that around the end of the 20th century and the beginning of the 21st century was when this precession was starting to move, specifically on the March equinox, from the constellation of Pisces, sort of the age of Pisces, to the period of Aquarius. And if you've ever heard of people refer to something called the age of Pisces and the age of Aquarius, that's what they're talking about.
I haven't, but I trust you.
A lot of New Agers used to believe that as the Earth moved into the age of Aquarius, that we were going to enter sort of a new dawn of spiritual awakening. The problem, though, is that didn't happen in 2012. That happened like some years earlier.
Oh, it already happened.
What did happen, though, is that on 2012, the sun passed through the constellation Sagittarius. Because it was already a sign off. And Sagittarius is one of the constellations that intersects with the Milky Way. The Milky Way being basically our view side on of our galaxy, where the dense stars and stuff are. So that means that on the winter solstice, every year, the sun and the Milky Way come into alignment.
All right. This feels like something substantial.
So basically that was like, okay, so that's what's going to happen. On 2012, the sun is going to pass through
All right.
galactic alignment.
Excellent.
And that's going to cause the apocalypse.
Yeah, how?
The thing, though, is
Okay.
that the Milky Way is about 10 to 20 degrees wide. Which means that for us to proceed through that is going to take between 7 and 1,400 years.
Between 7 years and 1,400 years.
700 years.
Oh, okay.
For the sun to sort of proceed through the Milky Way. So galactic alignment for what they call it is going to last for like centuries.
We're in it, right?
Yeah.
We're in it, baby. We're aligned.
Now in 2012, we were about in the middle of this process.
Oh, wow.
So
aligned in a lot of ways.
So we kind of crossed galactic equator.
Cool.
But the problem is that we don't really know what the galactic equator really is. It's not like it's kind of an arbitrary line. We don't actually have a precise line like this is the middle of the Milky Way.
Sure.
So that doesn't really work either.
Okay.
And because it's like fuzzy and it's made of like, billions and billions of stars, there's not really a boundary to it either. So it's kind of hard to tell definitionally. That's why like it's, such a big range when you actually enter the Milky Way or when you actually exit or what the middle of it even is. So
it's hard to know. You're just sort of in it. You don't know you're in it till you're out of it. That's what they say.
Exactly. Now, if you were to be very precise and try to find the most middle of the Milky Way galaxy and have the precession go through that at that precise time, like measuring it to its most precise way that we can.
Specific atoms.
Yeah, as much as we can. The sun passed through that or proceeded through that in 1998.
All right. So it would jump the gun a bit for 2012, a little early for 2012.
Well, they're thinking it's like a period. So like maybe a period that went from 1998.
So 1998 to currently, it's still happening?
Yeah, we're kind of still in the middle of it. Or at least 1998 was like the center of it.
Okay. What came out in 1998?
I actually think that was the year where 2 comet movies came out. That was the Armageddon and Deep Impact year.
Oh.
So
right.
Maybe there's something there.
Yeah. Saving Private Ryan, Truman Show, Big Lebowski.
Saving Private Ryan had the best crossfade in cinematic history.
At the end or earlier?
No, the beginning where he
the beginning.
He de-ages where the old man turns into the young man.
I thought the young man turned into the old man at the end.
Oh, I thought it was.
Did it do it both ways?
Maybe that could have been it.
We'll never know. Did you know Ants came out? ANTZ?
Oh boy. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Same
year as A Bug's Life.
Yeah, there's like that thing in the 90s where there was like sort of convergence of ideas where like Ants and A Bug's Life came out at the same time and Deep Impact and Armageddon came out at the same time.
Yeah, everyone just had the same ideas. What's that about?
Also, Ants starring Woody Allen. Don't look into him anymore. No.
Don't look into that guy.
Not a good guy.
Air Bud came out.
Oh, well.
Anyway.
And then, so that whole thing, I know that was a lot of words to say that the Earth, like saying that the Earth passed through the center of the galaxy or that the sun proceeded through the center of the galaxy on 2012 is not accurate in any way you cut it, really.
Yeah.
The next bit is that there were some people who thought that the rapture was going to happen, mostly because it seems that a certain flavor of Christian tried to latch the apocalypse onto basically anything.
Yeah, no, for sure. I was in the middle of that one.
The idea, though, of the rapture being predictable is actually theologically wrong. So if you were to open your Bible to Matthew 24:36, the quote is, "But of that day and hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels of heaven, but my Father only," which has been used by many theologians to suspect that the exact date of the rapture or second coming of Christ is not known by anyone but God, and that it could happen at any time.
Well, okay, so what translation, do you know what translation you got?
Nope.
All right, so I'm going to read the New International Version, right? "But about that day or hour, no one knows, not even the angels in heaven, nor the Son, but only the Father." Son. Interesting. Nor the Son. What about the S-U-N? Son. Huh?
Going around
Conspiracy.
its 12 zodiacs.
Think about that one for a second.
God is the California raisin.
Also, I just wanted to say this is a fun fact. In 1998, if that was supposed to be like the exact sort of middle of the Earth and the sun or whatever, the sun going through the stuff, if that's the exact middle, it was also the exact middle of the run of the TV show Third Rock from the Sun. So think about that. Think about that for a second. Third Rock from the Sun was in the very middle of the whole series run when the sun was in the middle.
The John Lithgow show?
John Lithgow also had Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Who was in Inception.
Which
had the top.
Which is in 2010 in the top, which was 1 year after the 29 movie, 2012. I said 29 again. I don't know why I keep calling it 29.
There you go. You did it.
We did it. We're back.
That was a good show. I'm sure it probably does not hold up in retrospect. I'm sure there was some horrible things in it, but I seem to recall it being good.
Was French Stewart in that one too?
Yeah. Yeah, he was like one of the main characters.
Love that man. You ever seen Clock Stoppers? When did Clock Stoppers come out? Tristan, please stop me and continue saying all the facts.
You know what's a funny thing about Clock Stoppers? It
was directed by Jonathan Frakes from Star Trek.
Yeah, well, that's great. I did not know that. But when I was a kid, I was like, I have the best science fiction idea for a story that I'm going to write when I'm older and I know how to write things. And it's going to be about a person who has a technology that can stop time and then they can do stuff.
Whoa.
And then Clock Stoppers came out and I was like, fuck.
Dang, Jonathan Frakes stole
William
your
Riker
idea.
Yeah.
He did a big fat liar on you. When did Big Fat Liar come
my
out?
God.
Tristan,
okay.
please.
Star Trek Next Generation. It's okay because when I was...
Did you know Clock Stoppers and Big Fat Liar both came out in the same year? What a year for cinema.
Oh my God. Okay. There's another people, a bunch of people in the New Age movement also predicted that 2012 would just begin a new age of enlightenment, which you can't really make a claim either way, but given how 2022 is shaping up, I have a feeling that we don't feel super enlightened these days.
No.
I feel like since 2012, we have decided the Earth no longer is round, which I feel feels like a little bit of a step back.
Yeah. And then we got this secret space program thing now everyone's talking about.
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
There were some people who believed that a planet X, which back when there were 10 planets, back when there were 9 planets, we thought there was a secret 10th planet called Planet X.
I remember that.
But now I guess it's Planet 9. I don't know. Or Nibiru, which comes from our reptile stuff or the Anunnaki stuff, would collide or pass by the Earth. And the idea is that there would be aliens on Nibiru that were gonna. This was very much like not one people took seriously. It was very ridiculed, except for people on YouTube that I followed at that time. And also astronomers at the time pointed out that a planet that big coming that close to the Earth would be something that we would know about ahead of time.
Yeah, we'd be able to see it.
You'd probably be able to see it without a telescope. Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically at the end of the day, one of the things about it is that they thought the world was going to end because they had a misinterpretation of the Mayan calendar and didn't realize that it was actually a cyclical, not a sort of progressive calendar, and misinterpreting that they would even predict the end of the world. Now, how did people respond to it is multifold.
Yeah, if you were like me, you were holed up in a hotel room wondering how you were going to get home when your parents got raptured.
Yeah, fear was one of them. Some people thought that it was going to be terrible and fear. Some people celebrated. Like, if I recall correctly, the Maya people actually took this as like kind of like a big, like almost like celebrating the year 2000 type situation.
Sure.
Because there are Maya people alive today.
Yeah, party like it's 2011.
There was also a big uptick in prepping, which is sort of people getting ready for the apocalypse, stockpiling food and supplies and things like that, which happens basically all the time. I did a whole video on this when I talked about Y2K. And then there were people who were skeptical and believed it was a hoax. I guess that was my camp. And then there's just people who took the opportunity to learn a lot about Maya cosmology and people taking interest.
Well, as you said, right? Curiosity was launched that year.
Yep.
So
in more than one way.
In more than one way.
Do you remember when Curiosity eventually died and everyone was like, tweeted like, "I'm sleepy. I'm going to go to sleep now."
It was so sad. Stop personifying robots. It makes me sad.
NASA really knew how to do... it's going to suck if Twitter is dead because Elon Musk killed it in like 2024 or 2025 when we land a person on the moon. It feels like a thing that Elon Musk would want Twitter to be around for, and he's like actively trying to stop it from happening then. No. Especially because theoretically, NASA's lander for that mission is supposed to be made by SpaceX. Though I have a feeling they are not going to deliver.
For the moon or for Mars?
For the moon.
We're going to the moon again?
We're going to the moon in like 2 years, yeah.
Oh, we've seen it already.
Well, the thing is, okay, so first of all, Joe Biden said that I don't know if Joe Biden will be president by then, but basically the idea is that they're going to land the first woman of color on the moon. That's the mission. But also, if you want to go to Mars, you need to land on the moon and have a settlement there because the ship that will go to Mars...
Take a pee break at the moon because Mars is a long way away.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, basically, any ship that is big enough to survive the trip to Mars would need to be built in orbit because you could not launch it from the Earth.
Gotcha.
It'd be too big.
Big ship.
Yeah, because people are going to be living on it for years. So
we just build our own planet. Anyway.
No one listens to you.
I could be a billionaire. Give me all the money. I'll build a planet.
I want. Can we give all our money to that guy from that Spider-Man comic that everyone makes a joke about where it's like, you could have cured cancer. I don't want to cure cancer. I want to turn people into dinosaurs.
You know, the first Spider-Man movie also came out in 2002, along with Clockstoppers and Big Fat Liar.
Oh my God.
And the first Scooby-Doo movie.
Oh my, okay. Your IMDb privileges are revoked.
I'm not even on IMDb. I just know I'm just thinking about what a great year for cinema. When did Shrek come out?
2000, I want to say.
2001, we were right in the middle.
Yeah, because if I remember correctly, there was a joke somebody said about how millennials, like the last great moment we had was Shrek because Shrek happened like a few weeks before 9/11.
All right.
But the thing is that since 2012, we've had other incidences that have been like this, but have never gotten to the same gravitas. In 2020, there was something called the Christmas star phenomenon, which is basically where Jupiter and Saturn were close enough together that they almost appeared to create a bright star in the night sky. And people thought that was going to cause the world to end.
Oh, because it was too bright.
Yeah. But every time there's some sort of like, alignment of celestial bodies.
Hold on. Why did they think it was going to end the world?
Mostly like rapture related reasons.
Oh, okay.
It's just like the thing is that if you have a astrology based idea of how events are going to happen, anytime things that don't normally get into alignment, you're going to think something big's going to happen.
That's true.
Unfortunately, astrology's not real. It's just not it's not
Here comes edgy skeptic Tristan again, back from 2012.
Like if you find your zodiac stuff fun, like go for it, but it's not real. It doesn't work. We even mentioned earlier that because of the precession of the sun, it's not even the right one anymore.
Right.
Because the ancient Zoroastrians who developed it lived thousands of years ago and had a different setup.
It's off by a little.
Yeah, it's off by enough that I know that they had to make a 13th zodiac. A baker's zodiac, if you will.
A baker's zodiac.
But in the end, December 21st, 2012 came, and Scott was able to get home safely.
I did it. I did it by doing nothing. I worried, and I saved the world.
There you go. You worried so hard that Nibiru
I worried so hard.
They were like, we don't want to scare Scott, so the Nibiru turned around and left.
They're like, he's gonna love us in a little bit. Once they tie us into Scooby-Doo lore, he's gonna love us.
Yeah. So what can we learn from this? The big one that I just pointed out is like the obvious one, which is just like, even though there is no science to back up this claim, it was still able to get the attention of the public, which, given it's a very banal statement, given our current state of affairs, where it seems like experts saying something makes people less likely to believe it.
That's true.
But it's also a reminder that the public can be swayed by sensationalism and pseudoscience, i.e., and to think about it, 2012, this is like, early on, like it's almost like a sort of, what's it called? Like a harbinger of the sort of moment that we're in now where no one seems to want to believe anything that makes sense. And it also kind of comes away with us just thinking like, it also is us worrying about apocalypses and not like the real problems, because you know what was going on? There were actually schools and stuff like that shut down in December of 2012. Do you know why?
Because they all wanted to get iPad minis.
This is much darker, but in December of 2012 was the Sandy Hook shooting. And maybe we should be more concerned about these kinds of problems, like mass shootings or climate change or nuclear war, like things that are going to be major problems for our world that are not the stars aligning in a weird way. And so maybe we should take our energy from that. Now we do have motivations for predicting the end of the world. sometimes it's not problematic. Sometimes it's just people goofing off and not being serious. But 2012 did create a tangible amount of fear and panic that was not productive and made people's lives actively worse. The thing is that believing in the apocalypse can cause people to do things like, say, attempt to harm themselves in a really bad way, or do things like give away all their possessions before the end, which can also ruin people's lives.
Did any billionaires do that?
Unfortunately, no. Are we allowed to say that?
Are we allowed to say unfortunately?
Unfortunately, no.
I think we're allowed to say that.
All right. Apologies to all of the billionaires who listen to this podcast.
Yeah.
Hey, if you're a billionaire and listens to this podcast, you can what's it called? If you decide to give away enough money that you no longer have $1 billion, you can listen to the podcast. This episode's going to come out and Jeff Bezos is going to be like, Jeff Bezos gives away entire fortune, says podcast.
said podcaster swayed him.
Yeah. Luckily, he by giving away his money, he's cured world hunger 6 times over and also solved climate change.
They had good points on that show where they talk about Scooby-Doo and aliens sometimes, says Bezos.
Oh, man. All right. What billionaire would it be the most funny if they listened to this podcast? Like Jeff Bezos was just a random one off the top of my head, but
Bezos was a random one. I mean, we hate on Elon a lot, so I think that would be funny, but also
he just likes being bullied. Him
but
buying
also
Twitter basically shows he does have a fetish for being bullied online.
He does like
so
being
maybe
bullied.
he would have listened to the show.
Oprah's a billionaire, but is that funny?
Maybe.
No.
Oprah was a fan of Dr. Oz and also got Dr. Phil on the air. So, but either way, Oprah, if you're listening to this podcast,
Oprah,
you can remain a billionaire until the socialist revolution comes.
Yeah. I'm looking up when we were so close. The Oprah Winfrey Show aired its finale in 2011.
The universe could not handle being without.
She knew.
Nibiru was coming to Earth, and then they saw that Oprah was canceled, and they were like,
there's no point now.
There's no point.
to turn it around.
We were all coming here for Oprah.
Oh, boy.
I don't actually know the first thing about Oprah. I'm sure she's fine. I don't know.
Sure.
I mean, she's a billionaire, so probably is evil in some capacity. You don't become a billionaire without being evil, but, I don't know. I haven't heard anything except for spreading pseudoscience that Oprah did.
Yeah, the Dr. Oz thing is not
great.
Anyways,
why do people think the world is always going to end? There's sort of different types of phenomenon.
Because it feels like it. Because it feels like it is.
Certainly does. The main things, though, I would probably talk about are the true believer effect, apophenia, and confirmation bias, which, by the way, one of the things that I have been saying on this podcast a lot where I said don't underestimate the power of motivated reasoning, I realized every single time I said that I was referring to confirmation bias, not motivated reasoning. There's a preview of the corrections episode we're doing next week.
Corrections episode.
The true believer effect is a psychological phenomenon where people tend to become overly enthusiastic in a cause or idea or a product when they strongly identify with it, which can lead to irrational behavior or decisions.
Yeah.
Apophenia is the spontaneous perception of connections or meaningful patterns in random or meaningless data.
I'm going to close IMDb really quickly so I can stop connecting things back to 2012.
So that's sort of that one. That's that's our seeing faces in clouds and all that kind of stuff. And confirmation bias, which is the tendency to search for, interpret, and recall information in a way that confirms one's pre-existing beliefs. Like, say, if you have a History Channel television series that you're making a lot of money off that makes a claim that maybe aliens were showing up in the historical record, you're going to look through history and you're going to find a lot of aliens in the historical record because you have confirmation bias.
That's how that works. Just like I have confirmation bias that maybe 2002 is the best year for cinema. That's 20 years ago. You know that?
2002?
Yeah.
We peaked. Well, that's because now, what's it called? 2002, even 2012, like the fact that that was it's kind of refreshing when we were looking at the list of movies. That was like a time when non-superhero movies came out. Do you remember those days? Those days when people made movies that weren't just adaptations of comic books?
I mean, Spider-Man came out, but I hear what you're saying.
But
Signs came out.
Remember when movies were not in a cinematic universe? universe.
You say this, but the biggest movies of 2002 were Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, big cinematic universe still currently going. Star Wars Episode 2, not great.
Okay, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's just this is all movies have ever been and all they ever will be.
But Austin Powers did come out but that was in Goldmember. That was the third one.
Okay,
it wasn't.
Well, I guess I'm wrong.
Yeah,
but yes, I think that like this is sort of that's sort of the way that we need to understand, and like that because these are sort of parts of the ways that the human mushy brain works. We're always going to be predicting the end of the world, and there will be another 2012. There will be another thing that causes a not insignificant. I feel like in our time and place, given how it seems that we now can just make whatever reality we want, that there's going to be more apocalypses, more 2012s in the future, as now, I don't know. I watched the entire world. I watched a whole lot of people anyway, see the case to get a simple vaccine and wear a mask to protect ourselves from a deadly pandemic, and apparently decide to just rip society apart in order to prevent them from doing these basic things. And at that point, I feel like it was around the time when people were either taking lupus medication or fish tank cleaner or horse dewormer to cure their disease rather than getting a vaccine, that I lost faith that we're going to ever going to get ourselves back on track when it comes to thinking logically.
You might be right.
So, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, and to all, a Master of Disguise, which also came out in 2002.
That is all that happened. That is we've now covered everything that happened in 2012.
Everything that happened. I've mentioned a lot of movies that came out in 2012. What's the TV show?
If I remember, 2012 music was hopping.
2012 music was bumping?
Yeah, like I'm running a D&D campaign where the whole idea is it's taken from Everworld, where the players spend half of their time in like a fantasy world with like ancient gods and stuff like that, and then half in the real world. And we decided, because we're all in our 30s, to have it take place in the year 2012 while we're all in college. So I switched between the like best of 2012 playlist and like a ancient Egypt mood playlist as we play the game. And I'm like, 2012 had some good songs. Payphone was 2012. One More Night. That was the year that Maroon 5 had all the songs.
Oh, you're probably right.
That was when Fun Period. That's when that was their big day.
Fun Period.
That was also in peak what I call stompcore, like Ho Hey by the Lumineers and stuff like that. That's the closest I can come to a conclusion about what we can learn about the 2012 phenomenon, which it shows that human beings tend to want to see the end of the world for some reason, and we will constantly keep finding it, even if it makes no sense.
I have bad news, Tristan. The show, there was a TV show that was out in 2012 that was a big hit, and I think it proves that we should have been Earth destroyed, because that show was Louie. Great. Oh. Excellent show, Louie.
Was that, okay, I know it was like a stand-up comic vehicle. Was that Louis Anderson or Louis C.K.?
Oh, it was Louis C.K.
Oh, great.
Well, that was the apocalypse of 2012. If you want to witness the apocalypse of 2022, go follow us on Twitter at ProbsNotAliens.
There you go.
That website is doing good.
And it's interactive, so you can actually send us your meaningless 2012 connection.
That's true. What were you doing in 2012? And also, what is your favorite movie, period?
Okay, that's
What is your favorite movie? Tell me your favorite movie.
And why is it Small Soldiers?
What? Tell me your favorite movie and also why it's Small Soldiers. Good call, Tristan.
Because everything else is just a toy.
You can also, if you're a big fan of this show, you can write us a review on Apple Podcasts or anything else. Just like these fine people: Office Policy, Brandon Miller 6383, Castform 0123, and Benj with like 3 underscores. Thank you to all of you folks. I'm going to be refreshing the reviews. So read some nice names. Thank you to everyone who's doing that. It's so nice. And you just send in the show to all the people that you know. And the best way to send that show to people is just this simple little website called probsnotaliens.com. It really helps out the show.
Now, Scott, I have one question.
Yeah.
If I was saying, I love this podcast, what I'd really like to see is Scott eating a disgusting sandwich. How would I do that?
Yeah, I did post this video to YouTube. It was a Nebula exclusive for a bit. It has since become my number one, like, most viewed video in a long time. Me and my partner Emily made disgusting Scooby-Doo sandwiches that include things like sardines and marshmallow fudge. It was gross. And you can go check that out on my YouTube channel, Nerdsync, Nerdsync. That's not the only type of content I make, but it's seemingly the kind of content that people want me to make.
You're just going to be disturbing mukbang from now on.
That's me. And Tristan, if people want to learn, if people enjoyed this episode and they were like, where can I learn more about history and maybe even some like misconceptions about history or like how it relates to today, where can they, like, do you have any recommendations for that?
Well, you could check out stepbackhistory.com, which is actually a channel that I run, where I make stuff about, why the past is, why understanding the past accurately is important for understanding the world today. Now, I have a video that's a few weeks old at this point that'll be the most recent one if you listen to this when it comes out. It is on the political compass and why the political compass is bad, actually. And it features a hand puppet, which is a new thing for me. So
I like it.
If you want to see me convince a hand puppet to stop being a weird political compass meme poster, then you can check that out.
Fantastic. Thank you for listening to this show this entire year. It was the first like full year we've been doing this podcast, and it's been just so much fun and a blast. And we're glad that we survived the anniversary, the 10-year anniversary of an apocalypse. And we're glad that you're here listening. It means a lot.
It's been a really great project. It's been really great to spend a lot of time with you, Scott.
And I get to spend a lot of time with you, and you get to put up with when my ADHD is really bad, like tonight.
It's all good. We had fun. Trust me, it's more work on your end than mine.
That's it. We will see you next year.
But until next year, people.
Oh, my name is Scott Nicewander.
I'm Tristan Johnson, and the truth is out there. Probably. Oh, wait, no. Probably. Because it's like Bane. Because 2012 was the Dark Knight Rises.
2012 had a Dark Knight.
You merely adopted the weird conspiracy content, Scott. I was born into it. 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 I was born